so just go for it.
Yeah. So as everyone's coming in, what we're going to be doing is going over some of these tools and ways you can augment the learning within your organization. So while everyone's kind of flowing in and getting started, we figured we'd kind of go over one of them right now. So welcome to Tableau Jeopardy. We are your hosts, Ben and Ian. And who would like to take a shot? Ben?
Let's throw one up there.
Yep.
All right, Holy Kaczynski Harabaz. This new feature allows desktop users to break data into groups containing similar items based on multiple attributes. Anyone? Got one down front? What, I like in the form of a question, please. Perfect. All right. What? All right, let's throw another one. All right, this integration allows you to import custom maps, bringing a new level of geo-insight into Tableau. Arg, matey. Heard someone say it, Mapbox. Let's check it out.
What is Mapbox?
What is Mapbox? Huzzah. And the Arg matey is in reference to the pirate maps, which is a personal favorite, if you haven't used that one. All right, we'll do a couple more. We'll go to general desktop. All right. What is the difference between a discrete date and a continuous date? This is a tough one for a 100. That's fair enough. Any other thoughts? All right, let's pull that. So discrete dates, creating buckets of dates. Continuous is essentially creates an axis for you to put things on.
I'm reading line chart.
Line chart.
Yeah. No, you're not.
It is spot on.
Yeah, and actually that's a really important part of our presentation today. We'll talk a little bit about that and how this actually, a game like this, kind of centralized a lot of learning for your organizations. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Now you can see crowd participation is a little bit of our theme today. So when I say Tableau Rockstar, what does Tableau Rockstar mean to you? Feel free to raise your hand and I'll point at you for a suggestion. If someone in your company is a Tableau Rockstar, what are they? So are they someone who you might go to, though, if you need help? Who is that go-to person? Someone who is the head of your circle of excellence, if you have one. Someone who's attending the Tableau user groups or starting some programs like these. Some of you in this room actually may work in Tableau for 1 hour a week. Some of you may work for 40 hours a week. So at the end of this presentation, our goal isn't to convince you to make that 40 your new 50, or that 1 ramp it up to 40. It's actually to use that 1 hour or that 40 hours to be more effective within Tableau and allow you to be a value add to your organization and your circle of excellence.
All right, so we've got, at this point, a little less than an hour with you. So what are we going to be going over during this time? We'll spend a little bit of time going over why you are here, what you should be expecting to get from this. We'll talk about what the outcomes should be. We'll talk about what it means to be ready and how you can assess if your organization and you and the individuals at your organization are ready. We'll give you a list of activities, which then at the end we'll give you a link to go ahead and download some of those so you can kickstart or have a framework to start from if you decide your organization is ready. And then we'll leave some time for Q&A, both for us to ask things of you and for you to ask things of us. Because there are some folks out here who, just from chatting with you, that you already have a training program in place. I would love to hear what you're doing too, so we can steal some ideas from you. But before we do that, you have to know who we are, otherwise you won't trust a word of what we're saying. So I'm Ben Bradley. I've been with Tableau for about 3 years now in the product consulting team. So what is a product consultant? You may have seen this title with some of your presenters for the hands-on trainings, or you may have spoken with them on a WebEx before. So product consultants at their most core base are Tableau experts. They are the individuals when you might be doing an initial proof of concept or deciding if Tableau is a good fit, or looking to grow, so you have to do a pitch to someone to get the right to purchase more. They help you do the polishing sessions. They help you with the tough calcs you aren't sure how to finish. They listen to what you're trying to achieve in your setting and bring the technical expertise to the sales process. It's a little bit more. I also helped launch the commercial product consulting team's training program that we didn't really have anything organized. It was kind of ad hoc, and I found a way that I got put in a position based on an ask from the higher powers that be to create a more structured program. I now manage the commercial Southeast team. So if anyone here is from the Southeast region and you work with what you've probably heard is the commercial space, thanks for joining us. More importantly, I am an addict of running and cycling, and I'm currently fascinated by all things that ferment, especially kombucha.
And I'm Ian. I've been with Tableau for about 3.5 years now in the enterprise space. So I've been looking at some of Tableau's largest customers, seeing how they start off with the product, how they understand Tableau, and how they grow with it. And now I currently manage a team of product evangelists, which what we're doing is we're actually dedicated to our top customers, understanding what it looks like to understand Tableau, how it's used, how it's not just a replacement product. And some of the things we talk about today is mainly looking at how do we take a centralized center of knowledge and disseminate it and make it a value add. So I'm also a staunch supporter of Tottenham Hotspur and a home brewer of sometimes tasty, tasty beers. There are some similarities between fermentation and between Ben and I, but the reason why we are up here today is to talk a little bit about our center, creating a center of knowledge of education around Tableau. And we have a lot of stories, both good and bad. We've had some major victories, but also have our battle scars from creating tools and trying to implement them and then failing miserably. So hopefully a lot of the tools that we give you today and some of the advice will help you all come back to your own organizations and become a value add in your circle of excellence, or just merely bumping up your coworkers' education of the product. So let's talk about a little more self-interested members of the speaker audience, why you are here. Obviously, you want to make your team or your organization a little bit more successful. You may have a group of interested users that use, again, Tableau on an hourly basis, or you may have a group of business analysts that use Tableau day in and day out. So whatever it may be, let's make this worthwhile. Also, you might want to build your brand and enhance a scalable self-service training. You may not have a training available currently, so you're starting from scratch, or you may have something already there.
So with all of that in mind, how should you be feeling when you leave this session? Well, first we're going to go over, and we've already been talking about this, helping you assess, are you ready? And we'll really dig into that a little more. But you have to be in the right mentality, and you have to have the right organizational support to launch something on a grander scale. So we'll help you give you some ways to help you assess if you are ready or not to do this. In the event that you decide you are, or you find some ideas that you think you can implement even if you aren't ready for a grand launch, we'll give you some tools and some resources to kickstart so you could leave, go back to your company on Monday, and take what we give you as a framework, make it your own, and launch it. So what will you be able to do with that? Well, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to give you a link. We're not going to make you wait until content gets published out to the site next week sometime. We'll give you a link where you can go download the materials today, and we'll expect you to spend some time reflecting on where you're at.
But first, let's ask ourselves the question, are you ready? This was something that when Ben and I created content, we started focusing a lot on the how and not the why and the what behind it. Are you ready is a really important question, because as product consulting managers who work with product consultants on a regular basis, Ben and I are very lucky in that respect. We have product consultants that eat, sleep, live, breathe, chew, whatever function Tableau. Tableau is the only answer, right? It's the one function, it's the one solution. You might have a gamut of solutions. You might have multiple products. So the important thing to note here, though, is no matter what the solution, there is always a way. You just have to look at the solution and understand how Tableau fits within that process. So when Ben and I were talking, we kind of discovered the 3 real areas for readiness. The first one is human capital. So ask yourself, do you have the right people with the right skills? Meaning, do you have people creating visualizations? Who are creating those visualizations? Human capital could be as small as finding an interested group of members who are trying to figure out how Tableau fits into their space. It could be that small or it could be really large. The second is the financial capital. Now, I could insert a real salesy joke here and ask everyone for a check now, but it's actually a really important thing to think about. Often, a lot of our customers, especially on our large enterprise scale basis, they don't understand how quickly and how virally sometimes Tableau catches on. So initial purchase 5 years down the road or 2 years down the road may leave you over capacity and underwhelmed with your customer base. So something to think about is as you scale, how does that look like financially? And the last is the mental capital. And this is usually the hardest to measure, but I'll give you guys an idea and some more tangible tools to think about. So this is my user, department, company in the right frame of mind? Right? That's a really ethereal question. If you're here in this room listening to us right now, that's a pretty good sign of some mental capital there. Right? It's people that are interested within Tableau and working to get into the right frame of mind. If you have people who have center of excellences, if you have a large amount of external certifications, if your company is contributing to our ideas forums, our community pages, if you're going to Tableau user groups, all of these are really good signs of mental capital. And it's important with all these 3 elements that I didn't just convince you that, oh, I don't have the human capital, I'm not going to get anything out of this presentation. Everybody in this room has these 3 elements just in different levels and structure. It's more of a matter of reflection and understanding what you have a lot of and what you have very little of. Shoring up something that you have a small amount is really important. And it can be as simple as encouraging more people to go to Tableau user groups. It can be as simple as forming a circle of excellence or employing one of these tools we're about to show you. So there's a lot of these really great options here. We urge you to take what you see fit, make it your own, and enhance all these 3.
So while we were looking at the different types of activities we've used with our teams, there were activities that went really well, and there were ones that we kind of shelved and made note of not to do that again. So what we saw as we looked through all of those activities that were successful was there were these general themes that ran within them. And some of these are very intuitive and make sense. They're what we've been doing since grade school. You recognize people when they achieve well in front of the audience that they like to be recognized in front of. Maybe that's your small team, maybe that's the entire company. Iteration, the practice makes perfect. When you're trying to learn a technical skill, repetition helps drill that idea in. So I'm not going to go through each of these individually. There's some self-explanation to them. But the top one is something that popped out that's unique. The capitalize on the industry expertise first, then use Tableau. So what does that mean? We're not coming here telling you to make Tableau the focal point and then fit your business around that. What we want to encourage you to do is make your industry, your organization's needs the focus, and then figure out how to make Tableau fit within that. So it's the reverse of that. What that's doing is you're using a framework and a kind of a structure that's comfortable and familiar, and you're also using that to organize with data sets and other ideas that make sense for helping grow individual skills for what you need them to be doing within your organization. All right. What does this image have to do with our talk? It's a little bit of a shocker, so everyone immediately went to the screens. And that's purposeful. So if you think back to the punk rock era, there were all kinds of things I could reference with this. But if you think about that black jean jacket or black leather vest that everyone was wearing, It's the exact same basic framework that everyone started from. But they took that and they made it their own. So they'd add their studs, add their patches. You all started from the same place, though. What we're giving you today is that black leather jacket. We're giving you a framework and an idea, but you have to take it, rip out the pieces that don't make sense for your organization, and replace it with what does make sense. So as long as you commit to not just taking what we give you and exactly using it with how we've used it, then we're all good to go. So I'm just assuming everyone's committing. You don't have to even nod your head. I'm just sticking that in there. So with that, let's dive in. We're going to go over in the next half hour or so. I believe we've got a little more than that. 2 activities in depth. In fact, we'll start with one. We'll just do a little on the fly. Like we said, we're going to get you involved. That we're going to deep dive into those, assess what they were all about, how they worked, and then we'll give you a very high-level overview of 4 additional activities that you could consider using as well, depending on where your organization is. So let's go ahead, and wouldn't be a Tableau talk without the use of Tableau.
So while Ben's pulling this up, is there anybody in the crowd from Iowa?
All right, we've got a
Perfect.
few. All right.
Oh, man, only 2. I love it. Perfect. If you were to guess what city sold the most alcohol in Iowa, what would it be?
Iowa City. Okay. Any other guesses? Something Lake? Clear Lake? Okay.
Yeah.
Des Moines?
Yeah,
All right.
Des Moines.
All right. All the big ones. All the big cities. All right. So the first activity that we're going to go over here is, I'll just give the framework of what it was and then we'll dive into it. So we call it the Data Demo Challenge. So what we're doing right now is, as a team, we are participating in the Data Demo Challenge with all of the other members of the team out there. We aren't seeing what they're working on yet, but we're going to take them down, whoever they are. So we've been given a data set. In this case, it is the Iowa liquor sales data set. It's about 14 million rows of Iowa liquor store sales over the last 5 or 10 years. And we have 24 hours. In this case, we have about 5 to 10 minutes to come up with something compelling with this data set. So we learned some of the interesting cities that might be of speculation for some of the biggest sellers. We need to come up with a story we're trying to tell with this data. So let's say we're a mom and pop shop. We just retired, and we've got some retirement money, and we are ready to open a liquor store. And we need to figure out where. All right.
Pretty standard.
So we got some ideas. Our gut tells us we've got some Iowa specialists in the room. We have some gut ideas on where we would want to do that. Let's swap to the zip code. And what would be some of your guys' ideas before I just do what I think I would want to do? How would you approach this? What would be your first, the viz you'd want to try and throw together?
Or even a question you would want to
Yeah,
answer.
that's a better way to phrase it. What would be a question? Yeah.
Well, instinctively just go for the gut feel to say, all right, pick these 3 cities, what's the sales there?
So you'd take our gut feel, take those 3 cities, drill into what they've got. Yep, good starting point.
Down here.
Measure your zip code with the bottle volume.
Bottle volume by zip code, another good option.
In the back.
Bottles sold by city. All right, so we're seeing that theme. We want to start, got one more.
Yeah, I would want to drop in population to understand that correlation, right?
I like your style. It's like I planted you in the audience. I wish I had. So when I started this, I actually did that. You'll see we've got 2 sheets here. I did a join with some census data on population. Couldn't find it by city, found it by zip code though, so we're switching to zip code from city. Still can work just as well. So we brought that in, and now we've got that population data. So let's take a look at that population data. And then we'll do it. The other thing, this was another piece I had, was we want to find those populous zip codes, which actually I already filtered it down to the top 50 because I decided we didn't want to deal with those small cities or the small zip codes. We need some people to come buy our liquor. So the population, and we want to look at the number of competing liquor stores that already exist in those. So let's go ahead and we'll use that store number. And we'll just do a count distinct on those. And then let's just drop our zip code in. And we're getting an interesting viz of seeing what are the populations of the numbers of stores that exist there. All right, and then we heard there was a number of bottles sold. Let's go ahead and drag that in too. And we heard sales dollars too. Okay. Anything intriguing, any of these points in particular pop out immediately that could be of interest? If we're thinking, actually, let's flip the axes. We probably want some of these zip codes with smaller populations, smaller number of stores, but higher populations, and then higher sales and numbers sold. So for example, this 52240 is somewhat compelling to me, as is 50320. So I did a little initial research on those because they did pop out, and one of those is indeed right around Iowa City, as well as right around some of the universities. So we've got an idea. We found a few zip codes we're compelled by. What would be another question you might ask? We've answered this question. We've got some ideas. We haven't finalized it. Where would you want to go after this? Yeah. Okay. Yep. How much competition? Oh, it's like I planted another person too. Yeah, so we've got an idea. I think the competition would be great to keep drilling into. What type of competitors are these? Are they convenience stores? Are they fellow liquor stores? Are they grocery stores? I like the idea of the brands. Maybe we've found out where we want to start. We've got a viz. Let's look at what's selling so we know what to stock our eventual liquor store with. So we could go on. I just want to be cognizant of time. To do that, let me pull up the final one just to kind of show you where we went. Taking that scatter plot, did some additional research, and I know this is kind of small on there, but what turns out is apparently we will want to be stocking our liquor store with lots of whiskey and vodka. And while we're doing that, you see this one up there, but anyone from Iowa, I'm not familiar with Hawkeye vodka, but I'm assuming it's like a national, or not national, a state-known brand. The cheap plastic jugs? All right.
Yeah.
So what is the point of doing this whole exercise? And thank you guys. I think we would do an awesome job in this competition with the team. Got the PowerPoint back up here. Well, what we did, for most of us, we were completely unfamiliar with this data set, the Iowa liquor store sales. It's kind of fun, but most importantly, it's unfamiliar. Just like with our analysts at our different companies, or someone who's working in a new role, they aren't familiar with your organizational data or a new data set that becomes familiar. So you help them find a way to get comfortable with the unfamiliar, start asking questions, making an insight, asking questions off of those questions, and continuously building off of that. It's the Tableau way. You've probably heard that preached in a lot of the sessions. So you're doing it through this activity where you're giving a new data set each week, allowing them to ask questions. And then that doesn't end there, though. You have to start thinking quickly and learning to tell a story with the data. And that piece is massively important. There have been some studies that show that good analysts analyze data, great analysts tell stories with data. So what this does is we then would bring everyone together 24 hours later after the data set went out, and they have to take the entire team through what they came up with and tell the story they found in that data. So let's take a look at how that played out for one member of our product consulting team. I'll keep his name anonymous. This is week one, and this was that Iowa liquor store sales data we just worked with. He brought in the population data, really good starting place, and then compared average sales, I believe, against that. But this is just data showing data. There's no story here, really. It's not very compelling. If he were sharing this with the CEO of our mom and pop liquor store, it wouldn't incite much action. So let's go 6 weeks later and look at what the PC put together with a Chipotle complexity data set. This is compelling. It starts with a question, saying choose the type of median you want for your Chipotle meal. The burrito bowl, the burrito, the salad. It talks about how frequently are the different proteins selected. It's interactive, it's engaging, and then shows how many ingredients do individuals put in there and how hot do they usually like their burritos. This took 5 weeks to get someone from that initial just bar chart to a compelling visualization like this with this exercise and some other activities that were going on. But it's one that really encourages individuals to get creative and get comfortable asking questions and telling stories.
So Tableau Jeopardy, in the beginning of this discussion, we started running you through this exercise. Tableau Jeopardy actually was originally started by 2 product consultants in the Washington, D.C. office. We were tasked with a challenge of educating our sales reps on how to use the product. And what they did is they cobbled together a Tableau Jeopardy visualization. So every single one of those questions behind it, every single one of those numbers have questions and answers behind it. It's pretty cool. So they set this thing up and convinced all of the sales reps to come, with alcohol, of course. And so that happy hour, though, more importantly, turned from lasting from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock on to 6. And the lights were turning out in the office, and so they had to tell them to leave. It became wildly popular. Even after the sales reps were done being educated in the product consultant liked it so much, they just did this every Friday. What this allows us to do, very similar to what's the difference between continuous and discrete, a line chart, is it allows you to centralize information within your organization. Maybe you really like that answer, and now you want to make it a part of your central knowledge. Maybe I thought of a different way, so I'm going to say something different. So really what this is we're giving you a framework on the front end. You can open it up and rip it out and put whatever you want in there. So it's really good for knowledge testing and sharing. That's what we do. We use it to make sure we're masters of all aspects of everything in Tableau. Maybe there's a particular feature aspect of Tableau that your organization uses. Maybe you guys are big into, multiple date filters or contextual filters or how to manage your data server. This could be really important to your central IT. It's also good for on-the-fly answering. You'll notice people get really excited. They'll start to participate and answer questions. And we highly recommend ending this and the duration of this be required beer. So in closing, it's mostly about feature awareness and creating one source of the truth and that really good understanding to centralize that knowledge. The next 4 examples we're going to go over is another 4 tools that we will give you. And they're really good just on their own or on their own or with a group. The first one this is Bronson. So Bronson is currently a product consultant, and he created a challenge workbook. And when you're a product consultant starting out with Tableau, you're given a copy of Tableau Desktop and said, okay, go learn Tableau. We didn't really have a centralized way of just creating knowledge and creating those Tableau Rockstars. So Bronson, when he was ramping to be a product consultant and understanding and answering complex customer solutions and questions, he created a bunch of these challenges on his own and then cobbled together other ones to create a visualization. This is everything on here, guys. It has everything from creating a customer landing page so you guys can figure out good resources to go to for your new users. Also, some of the more nitty-gritty challenge questions. They're divvied up into beginner, intermediate, and advanced. They're fully available, and I think Bronson is actually doing a session this week on running through a couple of these challenge sessions, so I highly recommend attending. This is good just to throw at somebody. Give it to a coworker, see how many they can find out. Have an hour where a team gets together and tries to go through all the challenges. The next overview of our training activity is our internal skill belts. So as customers, you may have heard about this, This is not to be confused with our external certifications that we have available here at the Tableau conference and further on. So very early on, before the external certifications were available, we have and had these internal skill belts available. It's bronze, silver, and gold, and it measures a certain aptitude of Tableau knowledge, both in server and desktop. Many product consultants are required to get gold within the first 6 months. We do have requirements on sales reps to get a certain level of aptitude in the product too. We're one of the few BI companies that actually do that still. One of the really important aspects about thinking about this, though, is that when we made external certifications existent, we didn't do away with this, and we purposefully didn't do away with this. The reason why is that we are held to a different level of aptitude and knowing the ins and outs of the intricacies of Tableau throughout the entire product. Whereas as customers, you may focus on a certain couple of aspects, given your role or the complexity of Tableau. So certifications externally and those desktop qualified associate exams are great. What you might want to consider also doing is starting something like this internally.
So if you're seeing these activities we've given you, and you're either saying, I feel like we already have some things like this going, or these are great, but where my organization is at, we aren't hiring a lot of new folks yet, and I've got a very high level of Tableau skill already in place. We had a similar situation with a little spin that we have something called a sales consultant and product consultants. And the sales consultants are in the field. They're the individuals who usually have the 10, 20 years of tenure in the world of BI. They know databases, they know enterprise architecture. Product consultants are that 2 to 4 years. They're just getting going, they're new in BI, they're unfamiliar necessarily getting out of the gates. And we needed to hire a lot more sales consultants quickly. The best resource for that we saw were product consultants, but we needed them to get ramped faster. So our executive VP came to us and said, we need you to come up with a way to get product consultants ramped and ready to go into the field faster. And we came up with something, Tableau Academy was the old name of it. We since have narrowed it down to Pre-Sales Academy, which is the umbrella title for product consultants and sales consultants. And what Pre-Sales Academy is a one-year program with a new topic each week. We'd bring a sales consultant in or on WebEx or on video conference, and they would have a topic, and it would be for us, it could be a technical skill. It could be going over one of our partner ETL tools, so it gets someone going in a 2-hour period. It could be on soft skills, so how to come up in front of a group and speak elegantly and have credibility and establish rapport quickly. It was something we thought would just be a transfer of knowledge. What we didn't anticipate happening was the PCs, the product consultants, and the SCs, the sales consultants, started building mentor relationships, and they deepened their trust within each other to where even as they ended their Pre-Sales Academy timing, those individuals started sharing knowledge, meeting up afterwards, which, as you may be familiar with too, a lot of times the relationships are the piece that can really drive career development. These individuals had someone to look up to and turn to and ask when they had questions that their peers didn't know yet. They had a career coach who, when they weren't sure what they should be studying, they started turning to that individual to help guide their development. So that was an unexpected outcome that arguably was more valuable than even just the technical knowledge, because there are so many ways to learn technical knowledge. It's really hard to build a program that develops mentorship. You cannot force a mentorship. And this gave a vehicle to allow individuals to connect on topics that resonated between the two. So we've adjusted this a lot over the last couple of years, and we're doing it again right now, heading into the 3rd year. If this is something you're interested in, let's bring it up in the Q&A. I'm happy to dive into what's worked well and what didn't work well. Or afterwards, if you really want to deep dive into it, I will hang around and answer any questions about it. Because it's been really cool to see it evolve and develop, and it's been really beneficial for both sides of the table. This is another cool shot. So folks who have attended Tableau conference in the past, are you familiar with Iron Viz? And those who are here for the first time, have you seen the advertising for it or it on your schedule? Well, we do an internal equivalence of this at a much more grandiose scale, kind of, in other ways. Iron Viz is tough to top. It's much higher production than the internal. We do something called VizWiz Challenge. And what it is a 6 to 8 week competition where individuals from across the company, this is marketing, dev, HR, product consultants, who often do very well in this, they are each given, again, they get a new data set. And this ranged, over the past years, there have been things like the Game of Thrones, like how many people have died in Game of Thrones, to movie successes and like what are some of the telltale interests in movies to predict success. You just get a data set. And individuals from across the company in a tournament-style bracket slowly compete over that 6 to 8 week period, culminating in the grand champion showdown of four or five teams on stage at our company all hands. They get given 24 hours again. Actually, it's probably about 12 hours. They get a data set that they have to work with and find a story that then they come up on stage, and they usually look pretty bloodshot and exhausted on stage because they don't sleep the night before. They walk the entirety of the crowd through what they found, and usually the ones that wins, in fact, every time the one that has won, again, is telling a story that they find in the data. This was last year. From the marketing team took it home, slaughtering the product consultants in their wake. But it's a really cool way to get individuals outside of your team collaborating and competing. It brings that recognition piece we were talking about. It iterates over each round and requires them to bring what you see is each team kind of brings their specialization. Marketing definitely brings a marketing flair to it. So they use their skill that they're familiar with, their organization, and apply that to the data set they were given. So it's a really cool way that you could start small just in your team over a few weeks, or if you're looking to expand this in your company, you know it's across departments, Tableau's presence, you can get those individual groups involved and create a structured champion kind of tournament of sorts, which maybe that's you hosting it on stage. I can tell you the two SCs, sales consultants who organized this, Wilson Poe and Charles Schaefer, are now known throughout the company for putting this thing together. So it's been really great. They've had a ton of fun with it too. All right. I'm shamelessly using my website, which is awful. Don't go anywhere else on it. But just go to this link, the bencbradley.com/tc16-resources, and what you're going to get there. So for that data demo challenge, if you aren't sure what data sets to start with yet, we have 10 different data sets that you can download that can give you a start. And yes, it does include the Iowa liquor store sales data set. We also have 2 examples of finished workbooks for those. In case you're trying to pitch this to show what the outcomes can be, has 2 very high-end examples that you can use to show what the outcomes can be. Tableau Jeopardy, we have the TWIBX, the TWBX file up there. All you have to do is unpackage it. You'll find the Excel workbook with the questions. So you can use that, swap in your own questions. It also has a couple other interesting data sets that you might want to use beyond just Superstore, although that's in there too, because it seems to be in everything we disseminate. There's a link to Bronson's challenge, the challenge workbook on Tableau Public, so you can quickly get to that. And then finally, if you aren't involved in a Tableau user group, TUG, yet we have a link to that page, so you can either find one near you to join, or if there isn't one nearby, it takes you through the steps of how you can apply to get one started.
So here are some related sessions. We are definitely not the end-all be-all of disseminating increasing knowledge within within your own company, within Tableau. We highly recommend these other classes. Bronson isn't listed there, but we recommend that too as well.
All right, so thank you for joining us. We're going to leave the survey link up there because we do want to know what you think. Were you expecting more from this? Was it more than you were expecting and you loved it? Let us know so we can adjust it for future years. Yeah, perfect. So that internal groups, chatter groups, whatever your kind of chat tool is, and kind of chat rooms, and getting involved in the external groups as speakers and whatnot. Very, very useful things. I know, are we at?
Yeah, we are.
We are at time when we're supposed to wrap up. We will still be around, so if you have specific questions, go ahead and come on up and ask us. But thank you all for joining us, and enjoy the rest of the conference.